Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this new installment of Poetic License. Wait, I have my little form even. Poetic License. Back in the days when I was actually like in a place to do it. So, thank you all for showing up. I was making jokes during all these earlier posts that last week my COVID test said, sorry, you've got COVID, which if I had still had it by now, and if this wasn't in a bookstore, I wouldn't be able to run it. But today I just got the free and clear that I'm COVID free and all is fine. But which is great, because when you have, I've taken all the shots, I've been boosted, blah blah blah. It amounted to a mild cold. That's all it was. So you know, John had it too, and he's clear of it too, and all is groovy in the universe, and yay, and this is how we can have our global edition of Poetic License, and thank you all so very much. I hope everything is going wonderful for you guys. This is the month of love. I have no idea how that relates to anything, but I thought maybe I'll find something about that in one of my magazine issues, because it's always my rule to read things from brand new magazine issue releases, and last year in Austin, there was such an awful snowstorm that it cut out power for us we were the first people to lose power and the last 5% of people to get it back. And there was snow everywhere, and we had our tent on the floor downstairs because the radiant heat from the ground was warmer downstairs at the floor, and it was like 40 degrees in here as we're functioning for days. But while I was doing that, I made a point to walk around and photograph anything with snow, so you get shot, and I'm like, oh, I'm so going to do that when I've got an accepted rating in this issue that was called The Great White. The Great White. I said, all right, I'm going to have to get snow all over these little palm tree things from last year. If you want to know anything about it, because it's a really tough see on this picture, you can always go to Scars.tv or Scars.tv/cc&d. It's what's up right now for the issue. I thought I would read 3 from this for you guys. I don't know what they're about. They're just, oh, but this first one is funny, so I'm gonna have to share this one with you. It was called Know What Planet She's From, and I wrote it on the anniversary of the discovery of Saturn's moon Titan. It's just a fun story, so I'm gonna share it with you. This one's Know What Planet She's From. On this date in 1655, Christian Huygens discovered a satellite around the planet Saturn. That is what we now know as the moon Titan, discovered today by the lone Dutchman. And back then, in 2015, a Dutch girl had discovered the intricacies of the Taj Mahal in India with a friend and a tour guide. She circled around and walked ahead, and when the tour guide saw the Saturn car logo on her backpack purse, the tour guide then said, "At least we know what planet she's from." And the Dutch girl thinks of this still, and she laughs to this day. I've always loved astronomy, so years ago, when I bought my first car, I researched it and I chose the Saturn. Then it was the second year of production. I deduced the make, the model, the color, went to the dealership, made my choice, all without even going for a test drive. Because when you love astronomy as I do, you don't haggle. You know this giant will give you everything you need for as long as you want it. That's how the universe works. Everything will be in order. Everything will be in order, making perfect sense. So after when stopped on the road in my Saturn, was hit by 2 cars and almost killed, respirators kept me alive. But my sister swore that if I was in another car, she was sure I'd be dead. Not unlike the way the gas giants like Saturn and Jupiter protected planets like Earth from rocks, comets, death. And I could go on and on about my love affair with Saturn, but the real key for astronauts today, when it comes to understanding the Earth's history, is actually in learning about Titan. Because this one moon, one of only 2 moons in the solar system larger than our moon, it is so much like our own Earth in its early history. Get a load of this. Titan is the only other body in this solar system that we know of that has hydraulic cycles. Translation, it has evaporation, condensation, and the all-important precipitation. It rains on Titan, just like Earth. Scientifically, it doesn't matter if it rains nitrogen versus water. You're missing the point. It has weather patterns. This moon has weather patterns. Other moons don't. And you may laugh at me when I put emblems from my Saturn car in my purse as a fashion statement, but maybe my love affair was for far more than an American car. Maybe, just maybe, it was for more than that. Maybe it was for the love of the solar system, the love of gas giants that kept our planet alive, and maybe it was for their moons, not so much unlike us. It was all that, with creation in the solar system, how all the pieces seem to fit together so perfectly. We can see our history in Titan, discovered today, so long ago, and that alone makes us all fall in love again. It was just the funniest thing when I was walking around, thank you guys, when I was walking around and I had a backpack purse that had my Saturn logo, and he says, at least we know what planet she's from. And I just thought that's the most priceless thing. But anyway, I thank you very much for listening. Hello to everybody, even for the live feeds. I gotta acknowledge everybody. I see them all doing that. But two more poems before I call up the first reader, which of course is thanks to our wonderful Zoom host, John F. McMullen. I've got two more to read. This first one is called Understanding Terrorism's Interior. And I think I wrote it, I want to say on March 11th, because K is the number 11, so 3 11s would be KKK. I think that's what made me write this on this day. We'll see. This is called Understanding Terrorism's Interior. Too many times these days do we see terrorism and not understand it. Recently, we see Al-Qaeda attacks, and when we don't understand, we assume the Islamists are envious of our wealth, because we only pay attention to what is right in front of us. And we don't realize that our own government was more than happy to fight communism by giving the Mujahideen Islamic fighters money and weapons to fight the Russians. But once they were free, us Americans thought we could westernize the Middle East, which was the last thing they wanted. Translation, they were fine with taking our money so they could fight, but otherwise, they don't want to be messed with. And boy, high and mighty us, we gave them some money because boy, did we want a medal. Did that mean we deserved the terrorist attacks in 93 and 01 and the mini attacks since in between? Probably not, but when you're really making a point, sometimes the most radical and absurd is in some people's minds the only way to go. Sometimes the prejudice some people face seems to be too overpowering to believe or even comprehend. It still boggles the mind to think people exist who truly believe their race is all that matters. Their race, really. And if that's not enough, they can also hate some religions and use that ever so popular, ever so seductive violence and murder to get their point across. The scary thing is that this terrorism flourished in the United States in 3 different rounds from one group. The Ku Klux Klan gave white men the feeling they were doing more than merely preserving the only thing they thought was good, when in actuality it was just isolating them from anything interesting or different in the world. When their solution to their isolation went beyond changing laws to make sure certain people weren't welcome, this narrow vision reduced them to killing innocent people, to thinking that hanging them from trees helped their message. It's scary to think that this can exist in our own shores, and maybe it comforts us to know that this latest 3rd round of the Ku Klux Klan is only a sliver of the size it once was here. But it's lurking to catch us once we feel safe. Terrorism scares us because we all believe that we are open and welcoming and willing, and we forget that we only choose to spend our time with those who are like us, who cushion out our narrow beliefs. We may not be terrorists, but in our own way, we choose that same isolation that may maybe lead to terror. We think we're above it all. We think we're better than that. And then we look in the mirror and wonder what we really see. That's what I get for making you guys think from issues of cc&d. I have one more in this. It is more humorous, well, vaguely, and because it is about radio, this is the weird thing. I'll ask everybody in the Zoom meeting here if you're willing. It's shorter. The piece is called Video Killed the Radio Star. If you could just close your eyes and listen instead of watching whatever as I'm reading. This is just a short one, and we'll see how this works. I have to keep my eyes open to read, but just listen to the words and let me know how it sounds. Video Killed the Radio Star. Living in rural Pennsylvania years ago, even before the internet or cable TV, he hooked up wires with his old radio so he could hear the signal for WGN and hear Chicago Bears football games. One night when I was little, when I was supposed to be in bed sleeping, I heard on the radio that John Lennon was shot and killed. I knew it before my family read it in the Chicago Tribune the next morning. As I grew up, I loved listening to the radio. I couldn't afford to buy all that vinyl with no allowance, so it was the coolest thing to hear new releases for free, right down to dance music mixes on the weekends. After moving to the northernmost edges of Chicago proper, I called one of the most popular Chicago AM radio stations because the DJ had art in my lit mag, so we talked poetry, on and on the air. Over the years, I've read poetry on the radio. I've been interviewed and have sung songs on radio stations around the country. And sure, since then I've appeared on TV and have been on YouTube like mad, but still, there's an unending allure to that radio. To have the opportunity for people to judge, not on the way you present yourself on camera, but hearing your words, hearing the sound of your voice, broadcast so all could imagine. Thanks. I don't know how many had your eyes closed, but you can open your eyes. Thanks to you guys. I hope that sounded good, just to be able to listen, because there's a coolness just to be able to listen to things, because we're all bombarded with seeing things on cameras in so many different ways, you guys, right? So thank you all for listening to that first round, including 3 poems from the new issue of cc&d, the February 2021 issue, volume 318, called The Great White. The Great White. And snowstorms on palm trees, it seemed appropriate. So I will say the list for everyone to hear it.